All right, we're going to take a look at the new Green Grocer Lab. I'm going to go ahead and do a walkthrough on it. Um, I'm going to go pretty quickly through it, but feel free to pause the video or anything like that if you need to take a look at the code. I'm going to walk through not only just the code to write, but the logic on why I'm writing it the way I'm writing it and what it does. So it should be a pretty comprehensive video. And I'm shooting to have it last as little amount of time as I can possibly make it. So we'll jump right in and get started. So this first method is called find item by name and collection. It takes in a name and a collection as arguments. They've given us the method definition already, and we've got the arguments here being brought in as name and collection. Okay, so this method takes in two arguments here. These arguments are a string, which is the name of the item we want to find in the collection, and an array, which is a collection of items to search through. The return values are going to be nil if no match is found. We want to return nil. And if there is a match found, we want to return the matching hash, the hash that has the item that is matched. Okay. Um, so the whole point of this lab is to take a grocery cart. You've got a bunch of items in the grocery cart that have different values. Um, they've got names, prices, um, whether or not they're on clearance, and all of these items are stored in an array. So we've got an array of hashes. Okay. So this method is going to be used later on to search our array of hashes for a specific item within the hash, and so that we can use that item in our methods later on. Okay, so I'm going to start out. This is kind of what we're looking at for what the input is. I'm going to actually do this. Okay, so like I said, we have an array that has multiple hashes. We've got three separate hashes with three separate items inside this array of hashes. Okay, so the first thing we got to do is we got to figure out how to iterate over this array of hashes. Okay, up to this point, we've learned one way of iteration, one version of iteration. So we're going to go ahead and use a while loop to loop through our array that contains each of our items. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start out by setting up a counter and set that equal to 0 because 0 is the first index of any array, and we want to start at the first index of our collection of items. Okay, then I'm going to set up my while loop while my counter is less than the length of our collection. Okay, so the length of our collection is, say we're using this collection here. The length of our collection is 3, and remember our index starts at 0. So index 0 is our first item, index 1 is our second item, and index 2 is our third item. Okay, so we want to loop through this array of hashes as long as our counter is less than the length of the collection, which is 3, which means that we can use this counter to access each index of our item. All right, and the way we can do that is calling on our array and using the index of operator and throwing in that counter variable. Okay, so as long as our counter is less than the collection.length, we're going to access an item in our collection, and that item is going to be whatever item is at the index of whatever number our counter is. So the very first time this goes through our loop, it's exactly like saying collection at index of 0. So collection at index of 0 would be our first item here. Okay, we want to use this counter variable though, because at the end of each time we loop through this, at the end of the loop, we're going to take that counter variable and we're going to increase it by 1. Okay, so each time this loop goes through, that counter variable will go increase by 1 until that counter is equal to collection.length. Okay, so the first time this goes through, counter will be 0. Then it'll increase by 1, counter will be 1. We'll go through this loop again because counter is still less than our collection.length. I'm talking about this collection still here, this array of hashes here. So collection.length is 3. Okay, our counter is 1, which is less than 3. So this is going to go to collection at index of 1, which is our second item here. Then we're going to increase our counter again. So that counter is going to be 2. 2 is still less than 3. So we're going to grab collection at index of 2. And then we're going to increase our counter again to 3. And is 3 less than 3? No, 3 is equal to 3, right? So our loop ends after our last item in our array. Okay, so that's how we're going to go ahead and loop through this array using this while loop. All right, and what do we want to do as we loop through each item in this array? Okay, the whole goal of this method, like I said earlier, is to find a specific item using its name inside of our array. Okay, so this is the method in which we're going to loop over our array. Now what we need to do is we want to check each item and look at the name of that item to see if it's equal to the name passed into our argument, passed in as an argument. And if that is, we want to return that item. Okay, notice I'm being very specific with my vocabulary here. We're going to use an if statement to determine this. Okay, so if our item collection at index of our counter. Okay, so this is our item. I'm going to go ahead and end that if statement so we don't forget. If our item's name, and so we'll look at this hash and see how we can access the name of our item now. Okay, the name of our item is stored in this key value pair here. So the key is item, which points to the name of our item, which is avocado, right? So if I access this hash, right, remember this is accessing this hash, this, let's say it's our first iteration, it's going to be this first hash. I want to access the key of item in that hash, which will return the value of that key so that we can compare it. Okay, so I'm going to access the key of item, and I want to see if that's equal to the name that we're bringing in as an argument. Remember, so if the item in our collection key of item is equal to name, we want to do something, right? And what is it that I said we want to do? Okay, I said we wanted to return that item, right? Collection at key of counter. Okay, so what this will do is it'll check if the item's name is equal to the name we brought in as an argument. And if that's true, it's going to return our collection counter. And the key here is this return keyword. Okay, this return keyword is actually going to exit our method and return that item that we found. Okay, it's going to return the first item that is found with the same name as the name that's passed in as an argument. All right, and that's going to completely exit not only our while loop but also our method. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this extra comments and stuff, and I'm going to run our tests here and just see how we're doing on our tests for this method. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and scroll up, and here's our method that we're working on. And so this method takes in 2 arguments, a string and an array of hashes. And when a contained hash's item key matches the string, it should return the matching hash. but when no contained hashes item key matches the string, it should return the matching nil. Okay, so here, if our item is found in our collection, it's going to return our item, and then the return value of this while loop is nil. So we're going to implicitly return nil if this while loop completes and we've never returned anything from here. Okay. The other way you can do this is by just declaring nil on this last line. That ensures that nil gets returned if this while loop completes without having found an item. All right. I'm going to leave it this way because I like it a little bit better. Okay. So the next method we're going to work on is this consolidate cart method. Okay. And again, I'm just going to delete this extra stuff so we can start fresh here. Okay. So I want to look at this consolidate cart method. And this consolidate cart method says it adds a count of 1 to each item if there's no duplicate of that item in the cart. And it also increments the count of the item when there are multiple of that item in the cart. Okay, so it sounds like they want us to return a new cart, and that new cart is going to have well, this actually example here, we'll take a look at this. Write the consolidate cart method. um, I'm just going to look at the given, and we're going to talk about the given because the README is a little outdated and needs to be updated. So this takes in an array, and it should return a new array where every unique item is in the original is present. Okay, so we want no duplicates of the items in the original cart. Every item in this new array should have a count attribute. Every item's count will be at least 1, and if there's multiple instances of a specific item, then the instance of that item in the new array will have the count increased. Okay, so to start off, like they said, they want us to return a new array. So that's going to be the very first thing I do is I'm going to declare a new cart variable, and I'm going to set that equal to an empty array. So that's going to be what we fill what we fill with each of our items now that are structured kind of like this. Okay, and I say kind of like this because this is returning an array. Sorry, a hash of hashes, but our goal is to return another array of hashes that looks similar to this. Well, it's kind of like a mashup between this and this. So we'll take a look at what that looks like in just a minute. Okay. So we have our new array where every unique item is going to be placed. All right. The next thing we want to do is we're going to have to loop through our cart again. Okay, so we're going to loop through our cart, and we're going to use that loop to fill this new cart with all of our items with the count variable. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and set up just very quickly that while loop. Okay, so we'll start out with a counter. And while, and I'm just going to leave that blank, some condition, and then I'm going to end it. And we've got our structure for our while loop here, okay? And so what do we want to do? We want to loop through our cart, every single item of our cart, right? Very similarly to how we loop through each item in our collection up here, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do something very similar there. Well, our counter is less than our collection or our cart, right? Dot length. And remember, that's the same exact logic. We're going to run this loop. And just before we end our loop, we're going to increase our counter by 1 every time. That's to avoid us from getting into an infinite loop accidentally, because those can get pretty nasty. Okay, so now what we need to do is take each item in the cart and see if it's already in our new cart. Okay. Um, so what we can do is we can look for that item in our new cart to see if it already exists. Okay, because I'm gonna just write out a couple of things here. What we want to return from this method is an array of hashes. And so each hash will have a key of item pointing to the name of some item, a key of price pointing to a price, a key of clearance. I'm going to go ahead and actually collapse this so we get a little more room. So we've got a key of clearance, I said, pointing to a true or false value. And then we're going to add a new key called count, and that's going to point to the number of that item in our cart. Okay, and so we're going to have multiple of these items inside of an array, and that's going to be our return value. All right, and just for structure, I'm going to put this item down here. This is just going to be an example of what our item looks like. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to figure out if that item already exists in our new cart. Okay, so whether or not that item already exists in our new cart, because like we said earlier, this needs to have every unique item, and if that item is already in that cart, the count should be increased for that item. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to declare a variable called new cart item, and I'm going to set that equal to, and I'm going to use this find by name in collection method to check for whatever item we're looking at using our counter in the cart inside of our new cart. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to just go ahead and call find by item name in collection, and this method takes in some item's name and some collection. Okay, so remember how we access our item's name inside our while loop. It's going to be very similar to this, right? Our cart is the data structure that has our item in it. So I'm going to go ahead and access our cart at counter, and then I want to get the item key, because remember that item key here is what points to the name of our item. Okay, so that's going to be our first argument, and our second argument is going to be the collection we want to search. Okay, and like I said, we want to see if that item's in our new cart. So this is going to return one of two things. Okay, it's either going to return the item if it finds it, and if it does not find it, it's going to return nil. Okay, and we can use that to our advantage for this next part. Remember how I said if the item already exists in the cart, we want to just increase its count, right? Because if that item's already in the cart, it should already have that count variable, and all we want to do is increase the count of that item in our new cart. Okay, so I'm going to do something pretty simple here. I'm going to say if new cart item. Okay, so if new cart item basically says if this variable has a value, okay, or rather, if this variable has a truthy value, okay. So a truthy value is anything in Ruby except for nil and false. Okay, nil and false are the only two falsy values. And remember, if this method does not find our item in the collection, then this method returns nil. Okay, so if new card item essentially does not equal nil, right? This is just this is the same exact thing as this. Okay, this is just shorthand. So I'm going to leave it like this. Actually, for clarity, I'm going to do this. Okay. Um, just to make it abundantly clear what we're doing on that line. Okay. If that new cart item does not equal nil, then I want to access that new cart item. And I want to access, inside that new cart item, I want to access the count key, right? The value of the count key. And I want to increase that by 1. Okay. So if that item is not nil, then I want to access the count of that item and I want to increase it by 1. Okay. Otherwise, I want to do something else. Okay. So if that new cart item is nil, right? If this is false, which means that new cart item does equal nil, or if it is nil, then what we need to do is we need to create our item. Okay. So I'm going to take new cart item and set that equal to this new hash. Okay. And this new hash, in this new hash, we need to construct the item for the new cart. All right. So we're going to go ahead and recreate essentially this item, and we're going to add this counter variable. It's actually supposed to be count. Okay. So the first key is item, and that item key points to the name of our item. Okay, so remember to access the name of our item, because we're looking at the item in our cart, right? To access the name of our item, we access cart at index of counter. Okay, so that's whichever item in our cart that we're currently iterating over. And I want to access the item key in that cart, or in that item. Okay, the next variable is going to be our price, and it's going to look very similar. Okay, cart at key of counter at key of price. Okay, or cart at index counter at key of price. That's what I meant. All right, I'm going to build the clearance. Key value pair now, and that's cart at index of counter at key of clearance. And remember that cart, the original cart, doesn't have this count key value pair. So this is the first time that this item has a count. So I'm going to go ahead and set that count variable, that count key value pair, equal to 1. Okay, so all I'm doing is porting over the item's name, the item's price, and the item's clearance value, and then I'm adding a count key value pair and setting that equal to 1. All right. Once that new hash has been built, we're going to add that new hash to our new cart. Okay, so I'm just going to use the shovel operator to push in the new cart item variable, which now contains this new hash that we just built. Okay, so then that concludes our if else statement. So if the item already exists in the cart, we increase the count. Otherwise, we're going to create that new item, and then we're going to push that new item into the cart. After our if statement, we're going to increase our counter so that we go through each item in our cart. And then once our while loop is ended, once we've gone through every single item in our cart, we want to return our new cart that we've now built. Okay, so that completes the consolidate cart method. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these, and I'm going to run the tests and check the consolidate cart method and make sure that we're passing that method. Okay, so looks like find item by name and collection is still passing. We got green there, and consolidate cart now passes as well. All right. So I realize that's a doozy and I went through it pretty quickly, but that's how that method is taken care of. And just go ahead and rewind if you've got any, if you've missed something, or if you need to take a look at the explanation for why we did something. Okay. We're going to go ahead and move on to this next method. This next method is the apply coupons method. And we're going to take a look at that method in our reading here. So this apply coupons method takes in a cart, it looks like, and a set of coupons. So let's go figure out what those are. Okay. So the arguments for our apply coupons is an array, a collection of item hashes. Okay, so it's our cart variable, that's our cart. And the second argument is also an array, which is a collection of coupon hashes now instead. All right, and this method needs to return a new array again. And the members of that new array will be a mix of item hashes and, where applicable, this item with coupon hash. And the rules for application are described below. Okay, so the given array, the first array, the cart array is going to look just like this. Okay, it's going to be an array of hashes. Each hash will have a key of item pointing to an item name, price pointing to a price, clearance pointing to a true or false value, and count pointing to some count. Okay, so if you notice, this is actually the structure of our consolidated cart. Okay, so the assumption here is that this array is an array of items that have already been run through our consolidated cart function or method. Okay, the next given is another array with a single coupon. Okay, well, in this case, it's a single coupon. So this is going to be what the array of coupons looks like. So the array of coupons has a number of hashes in them. Each hash has 3 key value pairs, the first of which is an item key pointing to an item name, a number key pointing to the number of that item that this coupon applies to, and a cost key pointing to the cost of those numbers, those items cumulatively. So each of these avocados are going to cost $2.50, right? This coupon is for 2 avocados at $5, which means each avocado is $2.50. Kind of a ripoff if you ask me. So the apply coupons should change the first array, and that first array should then look like this. Okay, so that first array, notice how this cart has 3 avocados in it, but this coupon only applies to 2 of them. Okay, so this new cart should have a single avocado item. Note that the count is 1 now instead of the 3 that it used to be. So a single avocado item with the price of $3, clearance true, and the count is 1. A single kale item, since we didn't have any coupons for that, that kale item stays the same. And a new item in it, and that item is going to be an avocado with coupon. And that avocado with coupon is going to have a price of $2.50 because, like I said, it counts for 2 of those items, and each of those items costs $2.50, and that clearance value stays the same. It carries over from our avocado item. Okay, so our avocado with coupon has a price of the cost of the coupon divided by the number on the coupon, right? $2.50. A clearance value that's the same as the clearance value on the original item, and the count, which is going to be the same as the number of items on the coupon. Okay, it'll be the same as the number of items on the coupon unless we have multiple coupons and enough items to cover each of those coupons. If you're following that, I hope you're following that. That should be clear. So we're gonna hop in and do this one. This is the largest, most comprehensive method um, in this lab, and it's got a lot going on. So pay close attention, and like I said, rewind and pause the video if you need to look at the code or make sense of what I'm doing. I'm going to do my best to describe really clearly exactly what's going on as we go through it. Okay, so this apply coupons takes in a cart and our coupons, and it needs to create a new cart with all of uh, all of the coupons in it, or it says it should return a new array here, um, but it also says apply coupon should change the first array to look like this. And I actually think that I'm going to do this. I'm going to change the original cart. I'm just going to alter that original cart to subtract the number of avocados from here, and then add another item, avocado with coupons, that handles the avocado with coupons portion. So um, we're going to end up changing the first array instead of creating a new array. Okay. So let's get started. All right. So the first thing we need to do is figure out kind of the most logical approach to this. All right. Um, and my opinion is that we've got to figure out what we want to loop through. Okay, so we can either loop through the cart, the array of items in our cart, and figure out a way to apply the coupons to see if the coupon applies to that item, and then apply it if it does, or we can loop through the array of coupons and check the cart to see if the cart has that item in it and has enough of that item in it for the coupon to apply. And I think that that second option, looping through the cart, makes a little more, the coupons rather, makes a little more sense, because we want to apply the coupons to the items in our cart, which means we have to loop through all of the coupons. And I just think that that logically makes a little more sense to do, loop through each of the coupons to see if they apply, rather than looping through the cart and then checking the coupons, each of the coupons against each item in the cart to see if any of the coupons apply, right? I think this is a little more straightforward. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and set up our while loop again. Okay, a counter set to 0, and while that counter is less than, like I said, our coupons dot length, we're going to loop through our coupons. And just before we end our while loop, we always want to increase that counter by 1. Okay. Um, so we're going to go ahead and start there. And cool. So we're going to do something pretty similar to what we did up here, where we were finding our item in our cart, but we're going to use this item from our coupon. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to create a variable, cart item, and I want to set that equal to the result of that, find item by name and collection. Okay, And what I want to do is, since we're looping through coupons, I want to loop through coupons and I want to see if the item on our coupon exists in our cart, right? So how do I access the item on our coupon? All right. And it's going to be very similar to how we accessed the item in our cart up here, except it's going to be the item on our coupon. Okay. So our coupons at index of counter, and I want to get the item key, and that should return the name of the item on the coupon, right? The second argument for this method is going to be our cart, because I want to see if that item on the coupon exists in our cart ultimately. That's what I want to do. All right. So our cart item is going to equal find item by name and collection, passing in the name from the coupon and the cart. And then I'm going to do a little work up front here. What I want to do is I want to start setting up for looking to check if our couponed item, if that item couponed already exists in the cart as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create another variable called couponed item name, and I'm going to set that equal to. And what I want to do is create a string. And remember, our item name for the item with coupon looks like this, right? So to get our coupon to item name, we got to kind of build it from scratch. And so what we're going to do is we're going to access the name of our item. Uh, coupons counter item. And I just want to interpolate that name into a string with coupon. Okay, so our coupon item name is going to be our item's name with the addition of the string with coupon. So that should be avocado with coupon in this case. Okay, the next thing I want to do is set up a variable cart item with coupon. And I want to set that equal to, and what I want to do is I want to check if this item with coupon already exists in our cart, because later on, if that item with coupon already exists in our cart, we're going to just increase the count for that item with coupon, right? This is designed to handle multiple coupons. Okay, so um, so this is going to be set equal to find item by name and collection. And so our item name is going to be couponed item name, and our collection again is going to be the cart. Okay. So this will either be an item name or nil, and this will either be an item name or an item name with coupon or nil. Okay. Cool. Now that we've got these variables set up to make our lives a little easier later on, we're going to start looking at our cart to see if our cart has the item um, and apply our coupons if it does. Okay, so we're going to start off with another if statement because we want to check if something is true. And that if statement is going to say if our cart has the item. Okay, and remember, if our cart has the item, this is going to return that cart item or nil, right? So if cart item will either be a cart item or nil, which is false. And if it's nil, this if statement will not execute. Okay. Um, to apply a coupon though, I not only need to see if that item's in the cart, I also need to check something else, and that is to see if that item uh, that item in the cart has if there is enough of that item in the cart for the coupon to apply. Okay, so I need to check the cart item. And where is that? Okay, so the number of items is stored in the count variable on our cart. So I'm going to look at the cart items count, and I want to see if that is larger than or equal to our coupon at counter, coupons at counter, which is our single coupon. And on the coupon, the number of items is stored in the variable num. So I want to look at the num key. Okay. So this if statement checks if the cart item exists in the cart, and it also checks if the cart item's count is larger than or equal to the number of that item on our coupon that we're looking at right now. Okay. And if those things are true, then we want to make sure that one of two things happens. Okay, so this is going to need another if statement. It's going to need a nested if statement. And those two things are if the cart item with coupon exists already, we want to increase the count of that. If not, then we want to add that cart item with coupon to the cart. Okay. So we'll start with another if statement, and we'll start by checking if the cart item with coupon exists. Okay, and I'm going to add my n just so we don't forget. And if that cart item with coupon exists, then we want to take that cart item with coupon and we want to access the count of that cart item with coupon, and we want to add to that count um, the number of items that the coupon applies to, right? And so we need to access our coupon again at counter. So that's our coupon and the num variable. Okay. So if our cart item with coupon exists, we take that count of our cart item with coupon and we increase it by the number of items on our coupon. Okay. And if we apply a coupon to an item in our cart, we also need to make sure that we subtract the number of that coupon applied to from our item in that cart. So I'm going to access our cart item, and I'm going to access the count variable of our cart item, and I'm going to subtract coupons counter at key of num. Okay, so I'm going to access the count of the items in the cart, and I'm going to subtract, I'm going to set it equal to the count of that items minus the number that that coupon applies to. Okay. If that cart item with coupon does not exist, then we need to do something different. Okay. And so if that cart item with coupon doesn't exist, we need to build it again. Okay. So I'm going to grab cart item with coupon, and I'm going to set that equal to another empty hash. And we're going to build out this cart item with coupon. Okay. So the first key is item, and we're going to point that item key at our couponed item name. Okay, remember we built this expressly for, well, not expressly for, but we built this coupon item name variable that stores the name of the item that the coupon applies to as the coupon item, right? So we're going to go ahead and use that variable here. The second item is the price. The second key value pair is the price. And remember what we said. We said that the price for the couponed items are going to be the price of the item, the price on the coupon divided by the number that that coupon uh, applies to, right? So the price on the coupon is accessed through coupons at key of counter, sorry, not key of, at index of counter, at key of uh, price, right? No. Let's see here. Our coupon stored in its cost, right? Not price, cost. Okay. And I'm going to divide that by our coupons at index of counter, and it's the number, right? The number of items. So at key of num. All right. So we're going to take the cost of the items on the coupon and we're going to divide them by the number of the items that that cost applies to. And that's going to be the price of each couponed item inside our cart. Okay. So the next key value pair is the count, right? The avocado with coupon should have a count. So we're going to set the count, and the count is going to equal, since this is the first time we're putting this into the cart, the count's simply going to equal the number that the number of items that the coupon applies to, right? So we're going to do coupons at index of counter at key of uh, number. Okay. And then the last thing we need, remember we said we want to carry over the clearance from our item, our original item. Okay, so clearance is going to point at our original item. So our original item was cart item, right? Remember, our original item stored in cart item. And in the cart item, it's the clearance value is stored in the clearance key value pair. Okay, so our original cart item looks like this, and we're going to grab that clearance key value pair from our original cart item and store it as the clearance value for our cart item with coupon. All right, so now we've got a cart item with coupon constructed, and what we want to do is add that cart item with coupon to our cart. Okay, so we're going to add that cart item with coupon to our cart. All right, and don't forget, if we add that cart item with coupon to our cart, we also need to subtract our number from our cart item count. Okay, so we're going to subtract the number of items that it applies to from the coupon from the number of items in the cart. All right, cool. So this should take care of either increasing the count for the couponed item in our cart or adding the couponed item to our cart if it doesn't already exist. All right, then we're going to increase our counter on each loop. And finally, we want to return our cart. Okay, so like I said, this is the longest and most involved method of this lab. It's got a lot of moving parts, a lot going on. So if you need to go back and listen to the explanation again, feel free to go ahead and do that, okay? I'm going to go ahead and run the test and make sure that we're passing that one. And it looks like apply coupons is all passing, not only the base cases, but also the more advanced cases, okay? So the base cases, it adds a new key value pair to the cart hash called item with coupon. That's handled right here. It adds the coupon price to the property hash of the couponed item. That is handled right here. It adds the count number to the property hash of the couponed item. That's handled here. It removes the number of discounted items from the original item's count. That's handled here. And it remembers if the item was on clearance, which is handled here. Okay. More advanced cases, it doesn't break if the coupon doesn't apply to any items. Okay. So that's handled right here. Right? If the cart has the item in it and if the cart items count is greater than the number of items the coupon's supposed to apply to. Handles if the cart item if the cart does not have the item on the coupon in it, then this whole thing skips and we move to the next item. Okay, so that's what handles this case. Can apply multiple coupons is handled here. Okay, so if that cart item with coupon already exists, then we're going to increase the count of that cart item with coupon and decrease the count of the item in the cart. Okay, and it doesn't break if there's no coupon. Basically, if this coupons array is an empty array, counter is going to be 0, and while counter is less than coupons.length, coupons.length would be 0. So while counter is less than 0, 0 is not less than 0, it's equal to 0. So we'll skip the whole loop and we'll end up just returning our original cart if there's no coupons. Okay, so that one's all taken care of. All right. Alrighty. So this next method, apply clearance, let's take a look at what that's supposed to do. So apply clearance, arguments, takes in an array, a collection of item hashes, and it should return a new array where every unique item in the original is present, but with its price reduced by 20% if its clearance values are true. The method should discount the price of every item on clearance by 20%. Okay, so here's an example of a cart that's passed into this clearance method. It should update that cart with the clearance applied, so the price is reduced by 20% of the original price. Okay, and it gives us a little tip here. It says you'll need to use the float class's built-in round method to would be helpful to make sure your values align. 2 point blah 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 should become 2.5 if we use it like so. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and make use of that in this method as well. All right, so this apply clearance method takes in a cart, and what we want to do is loop through this cart. We want to check if we want to loop through each item in this cart, check if each item is on clearance. If it is, we want to adjust the item for that, adjust the item's price for that item, and then return the cart with all the adjusted items. Okay, so again, we're going to set up a counter variable equal to 0, set up a while loop. While that counter is less than the cart.length, we're going to loop, and again, we're going to increase our counter by 1 on each iteration of that loop. Okay, so this one's going to be pretty simple. what we basically want to do is we want to write another if statement. And what we want to check is the value of clearance for the item in our cart, right? So we access the item in our cart by doing cart at index of counter. And then we want to access the clearance key, okay? And remember that clearance key is going to have either true value or a false value, right? So if it's true, if this is true, we want to go into that if statement. And if it's false, we don't want to go into that if statement. It's just going to skip this whole thing and move on to counter plus one. Okay. So if the cart at index of counter at key of clearance is true, we want to adjust our cart's price, our item's price to reflect the 20% discount because the item's on clearance. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to access that cart at index of counter and the price variable. And I want to set that equal to some new price. Okay. So that new price is going to be the original price of that cart. Let's see here. So the original price of that cart. So cart at, sorry, not of the cart, of the item. So cart at counter. So that's our item. And I want to get the price from that item. And then I want to subtract, and I'm going to put this next part in parentheses because I want it to be calculated first. Okay. And I'm going to subtract from it 20% of the original price of the item. Okay. So I want to get the original price of the item, counter, price, and I want to multiply that by 20%. Okay. So, you know what? I'm going to need to wrap this whole thing in parentheses as well. Okay. And that's going to be because, so I want to take the original price of the item and I want to subtract the original price of the item times 0.2. 0.2 is 20%, right? We could do 0.20, 20%. So 20% of the original price is going to be subtracted from the original price. All right. And like our README here said, we can use that round method to be sure that we get a nice round number, right? 2.5 if we have this big old 2.4900923, blah, blah, blah. So just to round out that number, I'm going to call that round method and pass in the number 2 because I want to round it out to 2 decimal places. Okay, cool. So that's going to change our price. It's going to set it equal to this new price, which is our original price minus 20% of our original price, rounded to 2 decimal places. All right. And the final thing we have to do for this method is return our cart, which has been changed by this loop if any of the items have been on clearance. Okay. So let's go ahead and run our tests. And let's take a look at our apply clearance method. And our apply clearance method is all green. It takes 20% off the price of the item if the item was on clearance. and it does not discount the price for the items that were not on clearance. Looks like we're good. Cool. So that one was pretty simple. That one was just a little bit of math, but it was pretty simple other than that. So cool. So this last method is going to be a comprehensive method that takes care of the checkout process for our customer. Okay. So this method takes in two arguments. The first argument is going to be an array, which is a collection of item hashes, or what we've been calling our cart. The second argument is an array, which is a collection of coupon hashes. And this method should return a float for the total of the cart. Okay. And they say here, here's where we stitch it all together. Given a cart array, the first argument, we should first create a new consolidated cart using that consolidated cart method we wrote earlier. We should apply the new, we should pass the newly consolidated cart to apply coupons, and then send it to apply clearance. With all the discounts applied, we should loop through the consolidated and discounts applied cart, multiply each item hash's price by its count to accumulate that to a grand total. As one last wrinkle, so they're throwing in another small little wrench here. As one last wrinkle, our grocery store offers a deal for customers buying a lot of items. If after the coupons and discounts are applied, the cart's total is over $100, the customer gets an additional 10% off. Apply this discount when appropriate. Okay, so we got a lot of stuff going on here, but it's probably not quite as complicated as you might think. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and delete all of this stuff, but we want to keep that in mind. We need to call each of these things in order. Okay. All right, cool. So I'm going to do I'm going to break this up into a few different parts. Okay, so here we go. First thing we're gonna do is apply all of our discounts to our cart. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is take our cart and run that consolidate cart method with our cart. Okay, and I'm gonna set that equal to a variable called consolidated cart. All right, the next thing that we want to do is grab a new variable and set that equal to the result of apply coupons and pass in that consolidated cart. Uh, cool. And the last thing we want to do is take another variable called clearance cart, spell that right, and set that equal to apply clearance and pass in that couponed cart. Okay, so this consolidates our cart. This takes that consolidated cart and applies the coupons, and this takes that couponed cart and applies our clearance value. Okay, so that handles all of those discounts, all of those original discounts that we have there. All right, the next thing that we need to do to check out is total up all of the items in our cart. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm not going to name this clearance cart. I'm going to name this final cart because that's the cart that we're going to work with to work our total. Okay. So first thing I want to do is we're going to need to have a running total, right? So I'm going to set up a variable called total and set it equal to 0. And then we have to loop through our final cart, right? We need to go through each of our items and add the the price of that item times the number of that item to our total, right? To get the total price for that item. So we're going to set up another counter and a while loop. While counter is less than our final cart dot length, right? We want to loop through our whole final cart. We're going to go ahead and end that loop there. And always remember to increase our counter by 1 before our loop is over. Okay. So inside of this while loop, for each of these items in our cart, we want to increase our total, right? So I'm going to set our total equal to our total plus. So plus equals just adds to total, whatever's on the right-hand side of that variable. And we're going to need to do some math here, okay? So we need to access our item for this iteration of this loop. Final cart at index of counter. And we want to take the price of that and we want to multiply that price by final cart at counter at the count, right? Count. Right, the items, the number of items is stored in the count variable. Okay, so final cart at counter is an item, and we're going to get the count variable for that item. All right, so we're going to add to our total the price of the item times the count of the item. All right, and after that, we're going to increase our counter. And the last thing that we want to do is apply that final discount if it's appropriate, right? So that says if our total is greater than $100, what we want to do is take that total and we want to subtract from that total the total, that total minus 0.10, right? 10%. Okay. And after that, we want to return our total. Okay. So if the total is greater than $100, we're going to subtract from that total the current total minus 10% of that total. Okay. Sorry. Not minus, times, right? We want to multiply that total times 10% and subtract the result of this from our total using minus equals. Okay. And then after that, we're going to return our total. All right. So this may or may not change our total. Regardless of that fact, whether or not that total's been changed, we're going to return our total. Okay. So let's go ahead and run this last test and see if we pass, see if that works. Oh no. Looks like we've got an issue. And that issue is on line 71 is where it broke first. Coupon cart equals apply coupons, consolidated cart. And it says wrong number of arguments given 1, expected 2, right? So it's saying that apply coupons, right? In apply coupons. So apply coupons expected 2 arguments, right? Because our apply coupons here takes in a cart and a set of coupons, but we only gave it 1 argument. We only gave it a cart. So we got to make sure we pass in our coupons that we brought in to our checkout method. So let's take a look and see if that fixed everything here. And voila, it looks like it does fix everything. So let's do one more walkthrough on this method, this final method here, using these tests, okay? So check out in a base case with no clearance and no coupons. It should call on consolidate cart before calculating the total for one item, okay? So consolidated cart was called. It should call on apply coupons after calling on consolidated cart when there's only one item in the cart. So we called consolidated cart here, and then after that we called on apply coupons here, okay? It should call on apply clearance after calling on apply coupons. So after we called apply coupons, we called on apply clearance. Um, when there's only one item in the cart and no coupon. It should call on apply clearance after calling on apply coupons with multiple items and one coupon. And it should call on apply clearance after calling on apply coupons with multiple items, coupons, and with items that are on clearance. Okay. It should also call on consolidate cart before calculating the total for two different items. And it should also call on consolidate cart before calculating the total for two identical items. All right. The coupons tests underneath the checkout method checks if our checkout considers coupons, which it obviously does. We called apply coupons. It should consider coupons and clearance discounts. It does both on these two lines. And it only applies coupons that meet the minimum amount. That was handled in our apply coupon method right here, where we check to make sure that the cart had enough items to fulfill the coupon. Okay. Clearance applies a 20% discount to items on clearance. Okay, that was handled by the clearance method right here. And it applies to the discount to items on clearance and not to non-clearance items, right? And that was the whole point of this if statement. It should only apply that clearance if the item is on clearance. If it's not, it should not. All right. And the last and final test, discount of 10%. That's handled here with this if statement. If the total is over $100, we're going to subtract 10% from the total before we return it on this line. Okay. So that there is the entire Green Grocer lab, start to finish. All right. Like I said, I went through it pretty darn fast, but that is one way to tackle um, this lab. Um, I did not have to handle a lot of errors in this lab. This lab or this walkthrough is not designed to teach you how to handle errors with this lab. This is an extensive lab that's got a lot behind it. So I just wanted to do the lab and give you guys um, the explanation on why we do it this way. So if you've got any questions, feel free to reach out on Ask a Question. Um, and that's going to be all for today. All right. You guys have a great rest of your day. I'm just going to go ahead and I want to scroll through this one last time for you guys pretty slowly so that you guys can have a picture of the whole completed product, okay? So here's the first two methods. I'm going to sit here and let it be on screen for about 35 seconds. Thirty seconds. Cool. And here's apply coupons and apply clearance right here. 30 seconds starting now. and the final crescendo checkout. All right, guys, that's going to be all. You guys have a good one. We'll see you next time.